Great Demon King. Chapter 24. First Bucket of Gold. Anger boiled over inside Daniel. "Damn it. I'm going to kill you," he roared, eyes wild with fury, unable to stomach his humiliation any longer. He charged at Han Shuo like a rampaging beast, determined to drag him into the depths of hell. His fists swung and crashed through the air, each blow powerful enough to snap bones. Yet, like a small but steady canoe rocking in a tempestuous sea, Han Shuo continually slipped past danger. Each strike seemed like it might destroy him, only to miss its mark at the last second. By now, everyone in the lobby recognized that Han Shuo's earlier evasions were not products of mere luck. His almost supernatural speed and agility left onlookers momentarily breathless. Those who had worried for his safety now grinned, exchanging knowing nods, while Jeff folded his arms across his chest and watched with an expression of downright delight. Eventually, Daniel's energy dwindled until he was forced to stop, chest heaving like a bellows. Bent forward and drenched in sweat, he glowered at Han Shuo, voice rasping with rage. "You worthless coward. If you really have guts, stand there and take my punch off. Quit dodging like a spineless dog." Though these words were spat in pure frustration, Daniel never seriously expected Han Shuo to accept the challenge. But to his, and everyone else's, astonishment, Han Shuo shrugged, then flashed a grin. "All right," he answered calmly. "No problem." A murmur ran through the crowd. Several people looked at one another in disbelief. Dodging was one thing. Han Shuo's slender build and quick reflexes explained that well enough. But taking a direct hit from a giant like Daniel, even the braver onlookers found it difficult to imagine Han Shuo surviving such a blow. For a moment, Daniel's fiery expression faltered with surprise, but he recovered quickly, barking a guttural laugh. "Suit yourself, kid. Just remember, you asked for it." His pride still stinging, Daniel decided to pour all his remaining strength into this one final strike. If he could knock Han Shuo senseless with a single blow, he would restore his battered reputation. Veins bulged on his thick arms, and the sinews of his shoulders strained as he wound back, building up enormous momentum. Han Shuo watched with narrowed eyes. A glint of steely resolve flickered in his gaze, like that of a serpent coiling to strike. Quiet but deadly, the lobby fell eerily silent as Daniel's fist hammered through the air, a blur of unstoppable force aimed at Han Shuo's face. Then Han Shuo jerked his right arm forward, channeling his magical yuan into his clenched fist. He met Daniel's incoming attack head-on, knuckles colliding with a thunderous crack. A sharp, unmistakable "pa" resonated through the lobby. Daniel let out a guttural shriek, reminiscent of a pig being slaughtered. His right arm dropped to his side as if paralyzed, and the once clenched fist now curled limply like a trembling claw. Pain reverberated through him so intensely that he couldn't speak, and tears sprang to his eyes. Han Shuo's hostile glimmer instantly faded, replaced by his usual innocent smile. He shook out his right arm, peering down at his fist in a show of exaggerated curiosity. "Oh, I really did take that hit," he murmured, voice tinged with mild surprise. In truth, Daniel's punch had been lethal in intent. He hadn't held back in the slightest, hoping to knock the life out of Han Shuo. But times had changed. Han Shuo was no longer the timid, skinny errand boy who accepted beatings without a fight. Now, each punch and push from him carried the accumulated power of his demonic cultivation, forging flesh and bone to an unnatural resilience. Shock silence hung over the lobby. Even those who had initially looked down on Han Shuo backed away, their expressions flickering with a twinge of fear. After all, Daniel's raw strength was intimidating, yet he had been instantly crippled by Han Shuo's counterattack. A few of the commoner human targets gave Han Shuo a wide berth, leaving him in the center of the lobby like an undisputed champion. The night students, on the other hand, brimmed with excitement. Whispers of speculation rippled among them. Some guessed Han Shuo might be related to barbarian tribes, while others wondered if orcs could assume human form. They were grasping for an explanation as to how this seemingly frail youth had incapacitated the much larger Daniel with a single fist. Daniel himself continued to howl in pain, his right arm quivering uncontrollably. It was more than evident that the crisp snapping sound moments earlier meant a broken bone, or worse. Jeff, observing from the sidelines, shook his head in mild regret. Leaning forward on the wooden registration desk, he sighed sympathetically. "Daniel, I'm sorry, but with that injury you can't stay here. You know the rules." Daniel's anguish gave way to frustration as he shot Han Shuo one last venomous glare, but he knew there was nothing left to do. He had lost, and now his shattered arm would disqualify him from earning anything that day, maybe for weeks to come. With a final grimace, He trudged out of the lobby, curses dying on his lips. A sense of relief washed through the crowd once Daniel departed. Jeff broke the tension with a firm clap of his hands. All right. That's enough excitement for one day. Everyone, carry on with your negotiations. Instantly, several night students hurried forward, eyes fixed on Han Shuo. Shouts of 1 gold coin, 2 gold coins, 3 gold coins echoed around him. Under normal circumstances, a sturdy commoner might fetch between 10 to 50 silvers for a practice session, but Han Shuo's clear display of strength, and the leftover adrenaline crackling in the air, drove up his price. He wasn't a warrior, nor did he possess a visible fighting aura, but he had demonstrated enough power to break Daniel's arm. To some knights, that was more than worth a higher fee. Han Shuo smirked inwardly, saying nothing in response to the initial gold coin offers. Even though he wasn't here purely for the money, he wasn't a fool. He had realized long ago that gold was vital in this world, just as it had been in his previous life. He'd happily wait for a better price. His silence encouraged the bidding to escalate. I'll give 2 gold coins. 3 gold coins then. Even so, the majority of them seemed wary of going too high. They recognized Han Shuo for what he was, strong for a commoner, but not truly comparable to a trained warrior with a refined fighting aura. Just as the bidding reached a plateau, a clear and confident voice rose above the crowd. 5 gold coins. A hush fell as the speaker stepped forward. He was a young sergeant knight with golden curls framing a handsome face. He carried himself with a poised humility that belied his noble bearing. I will hire him for 5 gold coins, he repeated firmly. Several of the other knights frowned or looked at him askance. One of them, dressed in emerald green attire, ventured a quiet protest. Lawrence, 5 gold coins is a lot for someone who hasn't proven mastery of a fighting aura. Even skilled warriors might cost around that much. Lawrence merely shrugged, smiling. We arrived too late, and all the top warriors have already been hired for the day. There isn't anyone else left who can provide me the sort of challenge I want. That makes this young man far more valuable than he would normally be. The logic made sense to those listening, and although it wasn't exactly a typical decision, none of them could truly argue. Lawrence seemed quite eager to finalize the arrangement. Han Shuo glanced around, surmising that no one else would outbid 5 gold coins. Since he was here to both test his limits and earn some spending money, that sum felt like a windfall. Better yet, as he eyed Lawrence more closely, he sensed this knight might be significantly stronger than Daniel. And that meant a more punishing workout, which aligned perfectly with Han Shuo's goal of forging his body through pain and recovery. I accept, Han Shuo declared, stepping forward. Lawrence made his way over, retrieving a small, colorful pouch. My name is Lawrence, he said politely, placing 5 gleaming gold coins into Han Shuo's open palm. I trust you'll make these coins well worth it. Han Shuo hefted the weight in his hand, recalling how Brian, had once been sold to the Babylon Academy of Magic and Force for 5 gold coins. Now, ironically, he was earning the same amount in a single day of sparring. Emotion bubbled up within him, although he kept his face impassive. I'm called Brian, he answered with a nod. Thank you for your generous offer. Closing his hand around the gold coins, he slipped them into the threadbare pouch hanging at his waist. His heart pounded with a strange mixture of excitement and pride. 5 gold coins were enough to buy the freedom he never had. Lawrence seemed pleased with his new hire. Come, he said, turning on his heel. Let's see if you can live up to your reputation. Leaving the bustling lobby behind, they made their way through a set of stone corridors that led to the training fields of the martial arts school. The area resembled the spacious practice yards of the magic school, but instead of being littered with arcane apparatuses, the corners were stacked with wooden training dummies, racks of weapons, and various other practical obstacles designed to sharpen combat prowess. Lawrence guided Han Shuo to a large rectangular field paved with coarse stone tiles. The expanse was empty, save for a few echoing footsteps in the distance. A breeze drifted through, carrying the scent of chalk and dirt. Once they arrived at a suitable spot, Lawrence removed his sword and placed it to the side. He stripped off his outer uniform, revealing a tight white training suit underneath. These 5 gold coins aren't going to come easy, Lawrence warned, stretching his arms and rolling his shoulders. Prepare yourself, Brian. I don't intend to hold back. Han Shuo's mind churned with both anticipation and caution. Through his training and demonic cultivation, his flesh and bones had grown far stronger than any average mortal's. Plus, he had discovered that his magical yuan had a peculiar effect on external energy attacks like fighting aura, somewhat mitigating their full impact. Even so, he refused to be complacent. He knew that real knights, skilled in harnessing their aura, posed a serious threat. This wasn't the same as fighting untrained muscleheads like Daniel. He nodded curtly. I'm ready whenever you are. Lawrence paused, eyes flickering with perceptive intelligence. Sensing that Han Shuo was a newcomer to this type of arrangement, he offered a brief bit of instruction. Remember, during our spar, your role is to dodge or block. You're not to counterattack unless your life is in danger. Understood. Han Shuo exhaled and offered a quick nod, bracing himself. Got it. A second later, Lawrence shot forward like a bolt of lightning. One moment, he appeared to be walking at a casual pace. The next, he unleashed the full speed of a knight empowered by his fighting aura. His left hand lashed out, fingers rigid and aimed at Han Shuo's chest, slicing the air with lethal precision. Han Shuo's eyes widened in alarm. This was a far cry from Daniel's slower, more predictable attacks. Lawrence's movements were refined, methodical, and backed by a concentrated fighting aura that boosted his speed and force exponentially. Han Shuo barely managed to twist away, feeling the razor-sharp whistle of Lawrence's fingertips pass within a hair's breadth of his chest. A loud tearing sound followed. The front of Han Shuo's shirt ripped open, flapping in the wind as a sudden chill washed over his exposed torso. He managed a relieved sigh, only to have it strangled the next instant by a fierce impact on his abdomen. Lawrence's foot struck him from the side, the blow landing right above his lower torso. The force was immense, knocking the wind out of him and sending him tumbling backward. He hit the unyielding stone floor with a jarring thud, pain radiating through his ribs and stomach. Gasping, he rolled onto his side, momentarily stunned. When he looked up, he found Lawrence standing just a few steps away, holding that same calm, almost amused expression. The knight's leg was still raised slightly, indicating just how much power had gone into that kick. That was with my fighting aura contained? Lawrence said, lowering his foot. Don't expect me to ease up next time. Han Shuo's stomach clenched painfully, but he forced himself upright, mind racing. It was painfully clear that Lawrence was several leagues above Daniel. The power behind that single kick had almost made him black out. I have to be sharper, he told himself. I can't rely on luck or raw toughness alone. Pain flared in his gut as he steeled himself for another round. Letting out a slow breath, he faced the knight squarely. Sweat trickled along his brow, mingling with the dust that clung to his skin. That's no problem, he managed, voice thick with determination. Hit me with your best shot. A hint of respect flickered across Lawrence's face. He had seen many would-be targets crumble at the first sign of real adversity, but not this thin youth with the unassuming build. Instead of cowering, Han Shuo actually seemed more resolved. Lawrence's curiosity was piqued, and for him that alone justified the price he'd paid. Then let's see if you can take it, Lawrence said, voice low and steady. Han Shuo crouched slightly, centering his balance. Although he couldn't launch a full-on counterattack, such was the unofficial rule for these hired sparring partners, he could still do everything in his power to evade, absorb, and adapt. And in truth, he wanted the pain. The only way to push the boundaries of his demonic cultivation was to challenge himself to the point of near breaking, just as he had in the past. With that, Lawrence took a step forward, gathering his aura with a subtle shift of his posture. Han Shuo braced for another clash of strength, heart pounding in anticipation. One thing was certain: sparring with a real knight, especially one as skilled as Lawrence, would be worlds apart from tangling with a brawler like Daniel. But the thought didn't fill him with dread. Instead, he relished it. Pain, after all, was the gateway to power. And for Han Shuo, the path he had chosen was one in which he had to embrace both suffering and transformation.